This is the Doc with SilverDoctors.com. We're privileged to have Eric Sprott, CEO of Sprott Asset Management, with us today to discuss the fundamentals of the silver market, the Euro debt crisis, and the recent follow-on offering of the PSLV. Thanks for joining us today, Eric. It's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, Doc, it's great to be here, and I think you have a wonderful site, and I would encourage your listeners and readers to pay a lot of attention to what you say. I think you've made a big addition to the silver world, because there aren't many people who talk to silver, and I very much welcome and enjoy reading your site every day.
Well, thanks, Eric. I'd like to start off by asking you just kind of a little bit of background. At what point did you first become interested in silver, and I guess what piqued your interest in it?
Sure. Well, I basically got involved in precious metals in a real serious way as a thematic investment when the Nasdaq crash occurred. We had anticipated it, and I'd been writing columns on the market, and I sort of foresaw that the market might break. And we had to do some research on, well, what are we going to do if we go into a secular bear market here? We run a lot of money, and how are we going to survive this thing? And I always used that word, survive. And there was some great work done by a guy named Frank Veneroso, who did a gold book in 1998 that basically said, the central banks and the gold mining companies are selling gold that they shouldn't be selling, and it's a negative factor on the supply of gold, and ultimately they're going to have to change what they do. So from a supply-demand point of view, one realized that there would be a secular bull market in gold. And that's kind of what took me there, because gold stocks were the only thing that did well in the Depression, and I figured they would do well as we headed into this secular bear market. In terms of silver, my first studies were in gold, but there was always silver companies coming through here. I got serious about silver, I'm going to say about maybe 30 months ago, when I kind of figured out that the supply-demand situation of silver was going to very much be in favor of the price going higher, and that the price was being suppressed, as I suspect the price of gold is being suppressed. And when we finally could win the battle against the paper short sellers, that silver would by far outperform gold. So that's kind of what took me there.
It sounds like you got in pretty good timing, or about the best possible, if that was around 1998 that you first looked into gold.
We've had a wonderful run with gold, and the UE Gold Index was down at 35 then, and I think it's probably 520 today or something like that. I mean, it's been a wonderful, wonderful place to be for the last decade and even into this decade. But as I look forward, I think silver might will outperform gold, notwithstanding the fact that I'm a big bull on gold as well.
Yeah, I know that personally, myself speaking, I'm a lot more bullish on silver today than even when I first entered the market in 2001, and I think somewhere around 470 or 475 an ounce. I know that you've often stated that this will be the decade for silver, so I imagine you feel the same way about silver today versus even a few years ago, Eric.
Well, I love. I'm kind of a data guy, and I love the data points on silver. You've spent a lot of time looking at what's gone on in the paper silver markets, as have I. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that we can, on days, trade 1 billion ounces of paper silver, when on a daily basis we probably only have 1 million ounces available for investment, and probably not even that. I mean, if I literally took the GFMS data, I mean, I think they said last year there's something like 178 million ounces were available for investment, so that's not even 500,000 ounces per day. So the fact that we trade 1 billion ounces of paper makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I think the thing that most people don't question is, why would anybody sell 1 billion ounces of silver when they don't have a hope in hell of producing it? So it sure begs the question, who's in the market and why are they in the market? And, there's been lawsuits over silver manipulation in 2008. We all saw what happened back in April, May, when the price fell all of a sudden, and you get these margin rate increases, which just seem so staged that and of course the shorters were losing big time money. They probably lost $20 billion at that point when the price was up to $50. So I think they were getting kind of desperate to find a way to to reduce their short position, which of course they've done until the last 3 weeks when I think they've increased their short position pretty markedly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. That last week of April, I remember we documented that appeared to be kind of more of a panic on the bullion banks than any sort of like general investment rushing into silver. I mean, the average person on the street still had no idea. They're not involved in silver at all. So just the idea that silver was in a bubble last April, like when you consider what a bubble is, it's just almost humorous.
It's an incredibly small market, the silver market. And, I've been involved in the gold market, and I've of course spoken to most of the people who are big players in gold, and most of them, and I'm talking on the institutional level now. I mean, I don't even think they've even considered silver, and which always shocks me that guys who can put billions into gold really haven't looked at silver at all. And I think the fundamentals are much more compelling for silver right now than they are for gold.
Okay, well, Eric, I wanted to ask you about Sprott's big news here. Your 3 new precious metal funds that Sprott Asset Management will be launching on February 28th. I believe they're the Sprott Silver Equities class, the Sprott Silver Bullion class, which, if I'm correct, that'll be the first silver bullion fund to be offered within a mutual fund structure, as well as the Sprott Gold Bullion class. So can you tell us a little bit more about these funds?
Well, really, it's 2 of those funds already exist in Canada, okay, but they're mutual funds and they're not. They don't have a certain structure which lets you trade from one fund to the other. So in a sense, 2 of them are not new. We have a silver bullion fund up here which has been operating for probably over a year now. It typically gets in, $500,000 a day. And it's set up for Canadians, and because we can't sell mutual funds to non-Canadian customers. I'm just going to see how that fund has about $182 million in it today, and it just keeps growing. And it's a great vehicle for Canadians to participate in the bullion space because it trades at net asset value, which I think is the deal of the century. Because as you well know, our PSLV trades at a premium to its net asset value, but it has certain tax characteristics and ownership characteristics which probably make it a lot better than the SLV in our view. So those 2 aren't new, but the Silver Equities Fund is something that we hope to launch here real soon, which will simply invest in silver equities, and we'll have the option of owning bullion, and we might even have some silver-backed notes that we buy from miners, things like that. Anything connected with silver that falls within the purview of what comes through here. So, I just want to make something specifically available that people can focus in on the silver market.
Yeah, that's great news, and that'll definitely, I see, becoming even only more and more in demand as the bull market progresses here. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your recent PSLV offering and kind of take you back a little bit. I was kind of looking back. I believe it was October of 2010. Your last big additional follow-on offering of the PSLV, I think it was 50 million additional units you offered. And it's been well documented about the difficulties you faced sourcing that necessary silver.
Right.
And about that same time, I remember that you predicted that silver would hit within, I think it was $50 within 6 months. And if I remember correctly, silver was at about like 21 or 22 at the time, and nobody else was saying anything anywhere remotely that silver was going to hit $50 imminently. And that proved to be one of the best calls of the bull market so far, as we saw silver hit like 49.73, something like that,
Right.
towards late April, early May. So I'm not going to ask you for another prediction here, but I'm interested. Like, was that prediction that you made just based on overall fundamentals in silver, or did your PSLV follow-on offering play like way heavily on that prediction?